Welcome to another Christmas Animates episode, and may I say, a very merry Kelsey Grammar Christmas.
Indeed, he would want you to he would want you to have it, and he strives to give you it every year because he says he claims himself. We just looked at an interview that he's like, if I can make a Christmas special, I'm gonna.
Yeah, apparently he's a big fan of Christmas, and he just loves making Christmas specials. And we came across this bizarre oddity where there seemed to be a Kelsey Grammer Christmas special every year for what I thought was like the past 20 years. There isn't over 20 that I'm aware of, but there's definitely quite a few. And we thought we would watch some of them and see what they were like. And most of them are sort of TV movies. They're not massive, extravagant, A-lister filled things from Kelsey Grammer's, the height of Kelsey Grammer's fame.
Hmm.
Most of them are pretty recent and not, I wouldn't say any of them are particularly great, but we're both, I think, very fond of Kelsey Grammer and
For
his,
better or worse,
for
yeah.
better or worse, yeah, maybe not the man, but the actor.
Yeah.
I've got nothing against Kelsey Grammer, but like I enjoy always seeing him pop up and act in things. I think he always gives a very good performance, and Frasier is beloved by both of us.
Absolutely. I'd say Frasier is like my favorite sitcom of all time, unless you count The Simpsons, which I'd call that more of a cartoon than a sitcom in my utterly arbitrary uh matter of distinction.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think it's the most relaxing for me to watch. I'm always happy to stick on an episode of Frasier. And as cliche as it is, it always feels like they're people that and it's a really
yeah.
nice sort of homely environment. And
If only Kelsey Grammer was in another show themed around being somewhere where everybody knows your name, you know? Too bad that doesn't happen.
I'm afraid I don't know what you mean. But have you been
Really?
have you been watching the Frasier reboot perhaps as well?
Yes, and you can see us discuss that on my channel. I don't necessarily know when the two videos are going to come out relative to each other, but we're tying this video to another discussion we're going to record on the Frasier reboot and its Christmas special on my personal page, Striker Star 19. And then, so some of you might be coming from that one because I'm going to plug this one there to animates as well. And the Frasier reboot, not to give away too much, really not bad.
Yeah, surprisingly decent is how I keep describing it.
Yeah, yeah, utterly like completely watchable. To the point that it's like there are plots that are like, oh, I could see this happening in like old Frasier. Like they seem to have kept up some patterns and some ideas.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I've been the the series coming back triggered me to rewatch original Frasier. So I've gone through about 11 seasons of Frasier in the past 2 months, just back to back, as well as the reboot and all these. So my life is just overwhelmed by Kelsey Grammer at the moment. He's everywhere. I constantly hear his voice wherever I go.
Oh my! I mean, there's worse voices to be clouded by. Kelsey Grammer like narrated my life. I don't think I'd be mad about it.
It's a relaxing, soothing voice, I think, Kelsey Grammer's.
Absolutely.
And we're in the heyday of the Kelsey Grammer resurgence at the moment, as he's just been in the Marvels as well, I believe.
Yeah. Have you watched his cameo in that?
Yes, I saw he was and now a CGI beast, which
Because I think he's just like I'm 68. There's no way I'm getting back in those prosthetics. Like,
understandable.
still looks really bad though. Honestly, I don't.
The version I saw was like one someone recorded off a screen, so I
Oh
couldn't
well,
properly judge the CGI. But
he looks a bit incongruous to me, but
mm,
uh, I'm a bit hard to please in that regard.
it's very difficult to get it right, and Marvel do have bad reputation at the moment for their questionable CGI. So,
Right. We picked out 3 Kelsey Grammer Christmas specials. I think these are all categorized as TV movies on IMDb, and they certainly feel like it.
I think the third one, I mean, it certainly wasn't a theatrical release, but
No.
the first two feel like they are much cheaper than the third one, I think. That might
Yeah,
just be
yeah.
because the third one is new. No, you think you're right. I think they're all equally cheap.
Well, I think the new one is cheap in like a more modern context because it has the like. I guess we'll get to that. We'll get to why that is. I think they all cost the same, but uh, in just in a different context.
Well, they had good celebrity money for the first one and Alan Menken money, so they must have had
Right.
somewhat of a budget.
Absolutely. That first one being his adaptation of A Christmas Carol, using the Alan Menken songs that I don't know if they originated in this version, but like peeking at comments and reviews, people have like just blind bought tickets to stage productions that have used this version's songs.
Oh,
So
okay.
Alan Menken must have floated them somewhere. I don't know what came first.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that they'd been used somewhere else. I'd say they're pretty solid songs. I was When they first started singing at the start, I thought, oh no. And then we've not got a good track record with songs on the animates. They're always awful. And then I was like, oh, it's Alan Menken. That's positive. And then
Yeah.
actually, they're all pretty okay. But there's like some of them are quite catchy. The Fizzy Gig. That's the Dark Crystal creature. What's his name? Fuzzy. What's his name? The guy who hosted
uh Fezziwig.
Fezziwig. Thank you. Not Fizzgig.
Yeah.
But that one was very catchy.
Absolutely. I'm a little less positive than you, but it's because it's impossible for me not to compare it to Muppet Christmas Carol, which I think has the best songs of any version. I don't know if you
I,
necessarily agree.
oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's everything in that movie is so good. It's very hard for any Christmas Carol to top it.
Absolutely.
And
Where
this
Can you tell the story of what the Muppet Christmas Carol did to your sister?
so we were yeah, I noticed you were about to break into We're Marley and Marley there for a
Yeah,
second.
it's the best.
Marley and Marley.
Lee, avarice and greed.
um yeah, we used to have Muppets Christmas Carol on video when we were kids. We used to watch it all the time. And we never saw, to my knowledge, another Christmas Carol like growing up. So me and my sister both had imprinted in our brains that it was the Marley brothers. It was Marley and Marley, and they both came to
Yeah.
visit Scrooge. And last year, I discovered a couple of years ago this was not, in fact, the case. My sister remained ignorant, and last year she was doing a Christmas themed quiz and she became really indignant when they told her she'd gotten the answer wrong. And it was actually just Jacob Marley, not Marley and Marley. But she was insistent, like she'd gotten the answer right and they were wrong, and there was 2 Marleys, so she deserved the points. And they were like, I think that was just in the Muppets one, and she was absolutely outraged when she discovered this.
I don't, that's like my favorite, like weirdly specific genre of story is just someone like learning through trivia night that their long-standing misconception was wrong. Oh God. It happens more often than you'd think. I can think of at least a few things. Um, So this one, I think I was also drawn to this one because of like it has a very like not a huge A-list celebrity cast, but like a solid TV cast. It's got Kelsey Grammer, Jason Alexander, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Jane Krakowski. I don't know if I'm forgetting anyone. Yeah.
I would argue that Kelsey Grammer, and I don't know if you agree with this, his performance in this to me is Fraser Crane playing Scrooge. It's not Kelsey Grammer playing Scrooge. It's Kelsey Grammer playing Fraser Crane playing
Playing
Scrooge.
script. I felt the same way. Yeah, there's some like line deliveries that are very
It's
like I
like
felt
Fraser
very
It's like an episode of the show where Frasier has been cast as Scrooge.
Just like,
And
yeah, like Fred Flintstone in the
yeah,
special we watched.
exactly. Yeah. And he's given this very sort of like earnest, over the top performance. Certainly at the start, I feel like he tones it down a bit as he goes on. But like the first scene where he like limps into the bank on his walking stick, I was like, this is like peak Fraser Crane, like thinking he's doing an amazing performance.
Oh
And
yeah.
like cut to the audience and Niles like rolls his eyes.
Seems we won't need ham at the Christmas dinner, Dad. Frasier is serving plenty. Is there an open bar at intermission? Please tell me. Yes, Roz.
Frasier, your Scrooge was simply delightful. However, it did make me feel slightly ill. I haven't eaten so much ham since Bulldog's hot dog party last week. Didn't know where I was going with what Jill had been eating.
How'd you get that Jennifer Love Hewitt on your arm, Frase? I don't know. We need to recap the plot of Christmas Carol. You know what's going on here. I guess I haven't read the original text of Christmas Carol since I read it in school, back in like middle school. But I feel like, I don't know, this one makes changes that aren't in every version, but I don't know if maybe they come from the original. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and say this one makes changes, but maybe like the backstory with Scrooge's dad in this is totally different. Cause like in this, he's arrested for his debts, whereas usually we get the scene of Scrooge sat in the schoolhouse and his sister comes to get him. They seem to have just kind of swapped that for like I almost got kind of Willy Wonka vibes and just how on the nose the like backstory changes to Scrooge were. You know what I mean?
It's a very like modern day type Scrooge origins tale, isn't it? Where they have to link everything up perfectly by the end of the movie.
Right.
Oh, that explains why Scrooge was like that with money.
Yeah. When like, yeah, I think if you give him too much of a reason, it just kind of cheapens that. I feel like the whole point of Scrooge needs to be he was a sweet guy and he came into money and money just like naturally corrupts one and you get greedy as opposed to like, the traumatic experience of watching his father jailed for his debt receipts.
Yeah. They definitely try to make you a bit more sympathetic to Scrooge in this, to the point where I was like, has he really done anything wrong? um,
Well, I felt that way about this a little bit, and also about one of the other things we watched. And I think it ties back to something about Kelsey Grammer, maybe, but maybe I save that for when we get to that. It's in the third film we're going to discuss.
yeah.
Maybe I tie that back. Because I also felt weirdly like he doesn't, like, of course he sucks, he's Scrooge, but it's also like he doesn't seem as mean as like, your average Scrooge.
No, he doesn't. If he didn't have the cane and the disheveled look, I feel like maybe he wouldn't be as bad. They definitely make him up to be like a crotchety old guy. And
Yeah.
it's clearly just Kelsey Grammer as he was at the time. Like this is only like 2 years after Frasier ended. And he looks exactly the same, but he's clearly not an old man. And they've just given him a really bad wig.
Mm-hmm.
It's
You do.
ultimately, the movie is the story of Frasier's season 1 hair becoming Frasier's season 11 hair. And that is Scrooge's character arc for this movie.
There you go. That's all you need.
I really loved George Costanza, Jacob Marley, and his troupe of Ghostbusters-esque ghosts who,
Yeah.
with some questionable CGI, all burst into the room and start harassing Scrooge like it's a Disney villain musical number.
Well, the best thing about Jason Alexander as Marley is that like usually you just imagine Marley as like a second Scrooge. Like there's not much left to the imagination.
Mhm.
But with Jason Al, you kind of imagine like a George Costanza Marley where it's like his greed was kind of driven by neurosis, you know, like
Yeah.
kind of imagining like I gotta get that change back. I gotta get that orphanage debt, Ebenezer. Like
Oh, Scrooge, you had to have the big salad.
my fiance died licking stamps. I'm gonna cash in the insurance.
What the
Well, Seinfeld was Scrooge. That'd actually be pretty great.
that would have been good. Kramer as the ghost of Christmas present.
Okay. Which I guess makes Elaine fast, and then Ghost of Christmas Future is
Newman.
Newman in a cloak.
Hello, ghost of Christmas future. Scrooge.
Oh man.
But I liked that sequence. I thought that was a good little sequence, and it's more than you usually get from the Jacob Marley stuff. I like that they just
Yeah.
all in and gave us like an outright horror movie type sequence with a skeleton, like a corpse opens up his chest and loads of gold coins fall out. I thought that was a good visual.
Yeah. And we get Jacob Marley dying on screen, which is a bit rare, I think, because we see him endure what seems to be like a heart attack.
Yeah, he
And
fucking keels over and dies, which is that's a theme of these movies as well. But he's just collapsed like face first on the floor. It's really depressing.
like someone just wrote his name in the death note, and he just gets like really tired. He's
Keels over, yeah. We also get the grave robbing Scrooge scene in this again, which I now cannot watch without thinking of the Magoo Christmas special with the song,
right.
Where despicable.
Is that about all for Christmas Carol? It's like it's a perfectly good, fine adaptation. Probably not one I would revisit over Mickey or Muppets.
No, but if someone had it on, I would be like, oh, it's this. And I'd probably sit and have a look at it and go,
Hop off to Chain by Agonizing Chain.
yeah, it's fine.
Before we dive into that, I'm gonna run to the restroom super fast. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, okay. You're not coming back, are you?
I
don't want to
really
talk about Mr. Saint Nick.
Mr. Saint Nick. Well, good luck with that.
May I take your order, sir?
Indeed, you may. This morning, I succumb to the pleasures of McDonald's Bacon, Egg, and Cheese Biscuit Extra Value Meal. Ah, yes. A bounty of tender bacon, gently fluffed and folded egg. The reassurance of golden melted cheese with crispy hash browns and a small fresh brewed coffee. Well done, lads. A Bacon, Egg, and Cheese Biscuit Extra Value Meal worthy of the name Bob.
Have you had your break
Bob.
today?
So we had a lot of choices. We could have done Father Christmas is Back and looked at Elizabeth Hurley and maybe had a better time, but I've seen that one. We could have done An American Carol, which is the Michael Moore conservative parody Kelsey Grammer did, which is like a 4th of July Christmas Carol thing. But we decided on Mr. Saint Nick, which is like perhaps the most unremarkable film I've ever watched.
It's a weird film. It's, to sum up the plot, which I feel diverges enormously at many, many points of the film, is Nick St. Nicholas is a wealthy businessman whose father is Santa Claus. He's going to inherit the family business at some point, but he wants to overhaul how things are done. And he's got a more modern way of doing stuff. At the same time this is happening, Nick St. Nicholas becomes involved with a dodgy con man and his supermodel girlfriend, and they con him into helping them to set up a website in which rich people will pay for poor people's Christmas presents who can't afford presents for Christmas. In fact, it's a con. They're just going to take all the money and no one's going to get bought any presents. As part of this, the supermodel pretends to fall in love with Nick St. Nicholas, and there's a wedding subplot after this. At the same time, Nick St. Nicholas gets a new maid who is potentially in some trouble with immigration police and a cop whose remit appears to be everything. And that's also going on. As the film progresses, he reconciles with his father and he becomes the new Father Christmas at the end. There you go. I've condensed it pretty well for you, but honestly,
yeah.
when I was watching it, I was so confused because there's so much stuff going on. There's like 10 other characters I haven't mentioned. He's got a butler. He's got the maid.
There's a little rock band.
Grandma. There's a rock band which the grandma is in charge of.
Yeah.
Who else is that? He's like
Eddie.
Mrs. Claus. There's a lot of people in it.
There's Wallace Shawn.
Oh, I forgot about Wallace Shawn.
Wallace Shawn, who I feel like just, I'm not trying to be mean. I think Wallace Shawn just likes to work a bit too much. So I'm having, has he ever said no? He could have said no to this. Wallace Shawn, what are you doing?
Why is he in it? He has no relevance to the plot. Every so often, someone's just like, "We better go and see that wizard," and he's like, he gives them some information about why things are changing, which could very easily have just been done by Mrs. Claus. Like, there's no point to that character, and he wears the stupidest costume I've ever seen. And I thought Wallace Shawn was going to be the villain of the film, and he was going to be like an evil wizard who was trying to take over Christmas, and Kelsey Grammer would have to foil him. But not in this movie, because we don't have time to spend any money on anything. It's just, we've got to film it in Kelsey Grammer's house, and that's all you're getting. That's what it felt like to me. Kelsey Grammer's Miami home is where we spent this entire film. That was what it seemed.
Right. I Googled, because I was wondering, is Wallace Shawn in this? Because he's also in like weird conservative circles.
Oh,
and I was like, oh no. And I Googled Wallace Shawn conservative, and the first thing that pops up is a 28-minute video called Why I Call Myself a Socialist by Wallace Shawn.
Oh,
so,
well, good for him.
Yeah. I think he's all right.
Dear me.
So this film is, I guess, what I would categorize, I categorize it as an elf-like, in that it's about a Christmas character somehow like bleeding into a more modern sensibility, and you kind of snap back and forth between some kind of city and the North Pole, a la Elf, kinda Tim Allen's The Santa Claus, an underrated entry, Noelle, which is Anna Kendrick as Santa's daughter. And I think those are divisive. Not everyone likes Christmas movies or movies with very lighthearted characters like those, but all of those make this movie look like a pile of puke.
Yeah, it's the poor man's, what's the Tim Allen? The Santa Claus?
The Santa Claus,
That's what this feels like. It's like Kelsey Grammer tried to do the Santa Claus.
They lift bits right out of it where he is getting fat uncontrollably because he's growing to resemble Santa Claus.
Which they appear to drop between scenes because they don't commit to it. Kelsey Grammer must have been like, I'm not doing that. That's embarrassing. But Kelsey, it's part of the plot. No. Get out of my house.
I'd sooner put on blue Hank McCoy prosthetics.
This weirdly may have been around that time.
Right. I get. Well, X-Men. Wait, does he show up in X-Men 2 or The Last Stand?
He's in The Last Stand, and I'm sure The Last Stand is like 2005, something like that.
So it's a couple of years after this.
Oh, okay. Was this like 2001 or something?
2002.
Oh, 2002. So this is like the year after Frasier had ended, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the case.
Well, Frasier goes a little longer because I'll always remember it's like this show started as like a distinctly 90s thing. In the last season, Roz name drops Finding Nemo. So I think Frasier goes like 2004 or something.
Yeah. Well, it overlaps 9/11 is how I always remember Frasier, which is depressing because sadly the Frasier writer died
Right.
He was on one of the planes. But that's how I always think, like, it does cross a certain barrier in time, Frasier. Like, it's not just consigned to the 90s or something.
Yeah. Also a sign of the time, the gold digger love interest villainess, the cousin Mel-esque villain, which is also a trope I really love. Is I can't remember the actress's name, but she plays roughly the same character in the Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap.
Oh, okay. I did recognize her from something, and I could not think what it was.
It's
And
it's kind of like her, Missy Pyle, and I'm trying to think. There's one more that I always lump in, but there is this like weird small subgroup of like hot but ostensibly evil 2000s blonde women, you know.
for a second, when she first walked in, I thought for a moment it was Claire Kramer of Glory fame.
She'd be good in that. I'd like to see that.
Which I was like, oh, Tommy would be very excited if this was the case, but I assume
Yeah.
you would have mentioned it if it was. So I was like,
I would. You would have gotten a message in all caps.
She's also like half Kelsey Grammer's age, I would say. Like,
Well, I don't
20s.
think this lady is like much younger, that much older than. I think it's still, the idea. Or I wonder. She seems a little more age appropriate, but I agree. Claire Kramer at that time would have been like, "What are you like?" She could have been. That was around the time she was playing a high schooler in Bring It On, so I think it would have looked really strange. Playing a high schooler, not be because she was Glory like at the same time as well.
Yeah,
she's decorum does wonders.
Well, he gets another love interest in this. He gets a second love interest.
Yeah.
Who I can't remember the actress's name. She was in Ugly Betty, but she also looks like much younger than Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah. But Kelsey, okay, and also I only recently I clocked that today Kelsey Grammer was maybe like 80. Because like
80?
Yeah, because like generous. I just think of Frasier the character as perpetually 40.
Yeah.
So thinking like, well, Frasier was 40 years ago, and he's 40 at the top of that, has to be. So I think he's like 80-ish now. He's only 68, actually, so I'm way off. But I think Frasier just carries himself as so old and curmudgeonly that I'm like, oh yeah, since the start of Cheers, he's been like 38.
Well, he's one of those characters who starts off with such a terrible haircut and dress sense. It's like that weird season 1 syndrome where everyone's got really bad outfits and hair. And as the show goes on and the people become more famous, they get like a stylist, and they're like, "Why the hell have you been dressing like that?" And then they dress them properly and give them a haircut, and they look like 10 years younger by the end of the show.
Right.
Which is definitely the case with him.
It's my friend who did not recognize that an episode of Friends season 9 had Monica. My friend was like, "Who's this new character?"
Just because of the hair.
Right, the hair and they just I think Courtney Cox just dresses very differently from like season 1 to 9.
It's all the holdover 80s fashions in the early 90s as well that date it. It's like I'm sure people weren't dressing like that in the 90s.
Yeah, Kelsey Grammer in this. There's a running theme where Kelsey Grammer always does I don't want to. Maybe it's my affection for his performances, but I always feel the people around him in these movies are a little too hard on him because he's trying to set up this charity website, and his dad. Have we mentioned his dad is Santa this whole time?
We did, yeah. It was the first thing I said, but it was quite a while ago.
His dad, who's Santa, is like, "You're disappointing me with this charity." And he's like, "It's a good thing. What are you talking about?" And it does turn out he's a bit misguided, but it's not it's a fine idea to have people donate to pay for the poor at Christmas time. He didn't know it was a scam.
No, it was a good. That's a great idea for a Christmas thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Santa is disgusted with it. Absolutely horrified by it. Santa would definitely have voted for Trump.
Yeah, no.
We get
Mrs. Claus.
We get two very different portrayals of Santa. He's not in the first. He's not in A Christmas Carol.
Right.
But we get this Santa is markedly different than the second one, but they're both sociopaths in my eyes.
This one seems like he's just like a senile, Like he seems like almost half asleep the whole time. Because I guess the thing is he's like losing his powers as they transfer over to Nick Saint Nick, his
Yeah.
son, to take over the family business. There's like a bit where as he gains these powers, he can hear people's thoughts. So like he'll think they're talking to him and he'll be like, "Oh, and I'm sure we'll get you that guitar, young man." And he's like, "But I didn't say anything."
Yeah.
It's like if you're reading the thoughts of pubescent boys, you're not I think I would gouge my ears out. I think the real life equivalent would be Kelsey Grammer's around these kids, and he'll go, "Oh, and I'll see what Santa has in way of Simpsons porn, young man."
There's loads of phrases and things he doesn't understand. You're so Phantom Tack. Like, dear God, what are they saying?
Yes, I do fancy myself as mother. Man. So yeah,
There's a semblance of, I think, a good idea in this, but there's so much going on, and it's so long and so drawn out
and cheap.
and cheap. Yeah, like
Like
if I
I
had made
kind of
this, I would have done Kelsey Grammer, the son of Father Christmas, facing off against Wallace Shawn's evil wizard in the North Pole, and that would have been my Christmas movie. And that would have been it. There would have been no subplot. There wouldn't have been anything about his maid or his fiance or a website.
yeah.
just let Kelsey Grammer ham it up and fight an evil wizard.
Absolutely. Yeah, there is a lot. Yeah, just a lot of baggage. There's a lot of. It's just like it's a very like cheap looking film in that it's filmed either in Miami where it just got like ABC Family film lighting and it looks really lame,
It's very,
or it's the
very
cheapest
warm.
looking. Yeah, I hate a warm Christmas movie. That's the thing
Yeah,
too.
this never feels like it's set at Christmas.
No.
The one time that they show us some snow, it's the most pathetically fake snow I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
someone is clearly just pouring out of a sack in front of a window because it just goes straight down.
Right. The workshop looks like super CGI and ugly.
Yeah, it's not a pleasant looking. I mean, it's a Hallmark Christmas movie, isn't it? And I guess they
Oh,
spent
Mark, something like that, yeah.
what money they had went on Kelsey Grammer.
Nothing left to donate to people on a scam website. What a shame.
Where did all the money go that people donated on that scam website? Did that plot line get wrapped up?
I'm sure Santa Magic can like twist it around and like make it rain somewhere it's needed.
Well, I hope not. So let's move on to the final movie.
Good morning.
And a bright good morning to you, madam.
This morning, I succumbed to the pleasures of McDonald's bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit extra value meal with crispy hash browns and a small coffee. Truly a break that puts the V back in value.
Which was the 12 days of Christmas Eve. Is that right? The 12 days of Christmas Eve?
Yeah, the 12 days of Christmas Eve. Fucking outrageous. It all started about a year ago when someone tweeted just a hypercut of Kelsey Grammer dying in this film.
He dies 12 times.
Yeah. This movie being about Kelsey Grammer as a kind of modern day Scrooge, kind of sort of. We'll get to some of the distinctions. A businessman who dies on Christmas Eve, meets Santa for some reason, who says he'll have 12 chances to have Christmas entirely correct and
Well,
maybe have a chance at life.
I think it's meant to be
Okay.
death, but death takes the form of Santa. That was my reading.
Oh,
of this.
that
I
makes
don't know if it's
that makes more
actually
sense.
him, but he does say to him, I don't know, I think he says like it is Christmas after all or something like that. So he's taken the form of Santa for this particular lesson.
Yeah. Fucking unhinged film. And I kind of said before, the bummer is we kind of blew our load watching that hypercut of the funny parts first, because nothing else about it is that outrageous.
No.
But I think it was still the most entertaining thing here. Asterisk, not necessarily good.
I thought it was all right. I didn't dislike it by any means. I think it goes on far too long.
Yeah.
Like we didn't need 12 days. We really
Well,
did.
they couldn't seem to figure out 12 days because there's like they go through 9 or so. Then the last 2 are a montage where the characters argue and it's clear Kelsey Grammer messes up again. Like they didn't actually bother to write something. They're like, okay, let's just get to the last one.
Yeah. But it's
So and I guess the first thing I noticed is that like I'm not saying Kelsey Grammer's character in this, like what I was trying to bring up before was that I think Kelsey Grammer has certain stipulations as to how mean he'll come off because his Scrooge is a little neutered and his character in this isn't. I don't find him terrible, honestly. He's not great, but he's not awful.
yeah, I think he's fine. He's not a particularly good boss, but he's not an evil person. And
Yeah.
the movie hinges. The reason that he keeps dying and coming back is because he needs to learn some sort of lesson to appreciate life. And
Mhm.
he's trying to reconnect with his daughter. He doesn't have a very good relationship with his daughter. He's been absent for a lot of her life because he's been more focused on his work. And his daughter, in a very dramatic turn of events, says, "You never loved me," which I don't think is the case at all. And we'll get to his piece of shit daughter, I guess, in time. But
Played by Kelsey Grammer's real daughter, Spencer Grammer.
oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Of Summer from Rick and Morty fame as well.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
wow. It's good trivia. I forgot about my Mr. Saint Nick trivia, which is that the butler he has in that movie is played by the man who thinks Martin is gay in an episode of Frasier. She's only
You
in
think they
that
just
one.
you think they just stayed in touch?
Maybe he was like, say, I need an elf butler for a Christmas movie I'm doing. Would you be free?
There you go.
David
Is
Hyde
Martin
Pierce has
there?
already turned it down, so you're my next choice.
A recurring theme in Kelsey Grammer's life.
He's always trying to get him back together to do more movies with him.
Yeah.
I've got a good one this year. It's called 12 Days of Christmas Eve. Just puts the phone down.
So yeah, we golly.
It's just he dies 12 times. So
Yeah.
it's basically Groundhog Day meets A Christmas Carol, would you say?
Yeah, yeah.
He keeps dying. He keeps
There's
trying to patch up his relationship with his daughter, and it keeps going horribly wrong. And he's bonding with the granddaughter, and he learns to become a better person.
wherein like the first time he dies, it like I think it like is handled okay in that he thinks the way to be nice is to just like spend exorbitant amounts of money and give like weird gifts to homeless people that have no use for them. And there's an amazing bit where he's got this shopping cart full of gifts and he's like, how about that? Try killing me now, Santa. And a little boy hears him and is like, Santa kills? He's like, no, oh no, no, no.
Tries to give him a toaster.
Yeah.
I love that he owns an electronics company, so those are all the gifts that he's given out. I thought that was quite a funny bit of the joke. He's just
Yeah.
randomly giving people like household appliances on the street from a big shopping cart.
There's a whole subplot with a right like a so there's a strange bit with like a rival business lady who wants to buy his company and they sell her off they like pass her off as very charitable. Like the first thing she does is, oh, I'll take 50 of the new Pokemon game and I just like to hand them out to people who can't afford them. But then it turns out she's like bad, like she wants to chop up the company and lay everybody off, and that's like the conflict. So and you don't learn that till the end. I don't really know what they were going with her.
It's a very uneven portrayal of that character. I guess they're
Yeah.
trying to say that people can be more than one thing, and
Yeah,
she can be a nice person, but also she will fire all the staff as soon as she takes over the company.
that's true.
But it's a weird portrayal. I feel like all these, well, this one and the last one have a missing villain who should have been in there to like try and propel the plot forward, but they couldn't commit to it.
Well, arguably the villain of this one is Death Santa. He seems to be taking a little too
I
much glee in what
I
he's doing.
I disagree. I think the villain is his terrible daughter, but I think Santa is a little unhinged in this. He's really he's enjoying all those deaths.
Well, you sent me some incensed messages where she was like, "You were never there for me. Now watch my daughter while I work over Christmas."
She's just this fucking awful person, and I was like, I thought we were barreling towards some sort of revelation from the daughter where she was like, oh my God, I'm just like you. I'm also a workaholic who's not spending time with her daughter, who's working over Christmas and would rather be working than, being at home with the family. I'm not making any effort to see you. I've done exactly what you've done. I'm so sorry, Dad. That does not happen. No one in the movie says to this woman, you're doing exactly the same thing that he's doing. Are you aware of this? And like every time he tries to help her, even in the smallest of ways, she acts as though it's the worst thing anyone has ever done. She acts as though her dad is responsible for a Holocaust when he gives her a fucking clock as a present. And I have never seen a more ungrateful, blissfully unaware character than this woman.
Well, like it's like Kelsey Grammer will do something that the narrative deems wrong, but as far as I can tell, his greatest crime is consistently just like not being a mind reader, where he'll pay off his daughter's student loans and she'll like get mad.
It's not like he's not an abusive father. He's been distant over the years because he's been focused on his company. Fair enough. You'd have some resentment there. But like he's literally at the start of the film, before anything even happens, he's doing a fundraiser for your hospital.
Yeah.
And he's like, are you going to come to the fundraiser later? And she's like, oh, I suppose. It's like, oh, fuck you. Like, what is your problem?
And it's like, yeah, money isn't everything. Maybe the core is like, well, money doesn't make up for the lost time, but maybe if you said thank you, it would initiate something more,
Yeah, you don't have to be a dick about everything. Like, he gets on fine with the granddaughter.
Yeah. Man. So I guess the highlight of this film is that he dies many, many times.
In hilarious ways.
The heck is going on? Hey, watch out for the... I'm gonna show you! Jet, I'm not gonna make it. Oh, come on. We'll just see about that.
Oh, well, and Kelsey Grammer just has such a good like scream. Like he always like ah!
As he goes off the bridge.
He like there's one death where he buys the granddaughter a dog and it jumps up on his like he's against the roof of a building and it jumps up against him in excitement and knocks him and sends him falling to his death.
There's another one where he's trying to get out of it and end it as soon as possible. So he literally just like he puts one like leg over the edge of the building and just throws himself off. And it made me think of Principal Skinner like jumping out the window in the steamed hams sketch. Like that's how he does it. Just, like, casually hops over the side.
He gets electrocuted at one point.
Oh yeah, the only bit of special effects we get in the movie when he gets electrocuted.
And also when a boardroom needs to exist.
Yeah, for some reason we can't afford we can afford the boardroom, but we can't afford a window. So we have to have a horrible CGI background every time Kelsey Grammer speaks, which is very bizarre.
Oh boy.
You had the window there.
Oh.
Put up a blind or a curtain or something. We don't
Yeah.
need to spend money on this. Have him sit at the other end of the table. Like, what are you doing? Anyway,
Man, so much else happened. Did we cover? I can't help but feel like we're forgetting something, but
I mean, a lot of stuff does happen in it, but it's all repeated stuff. So we basically watch the same day 12 times. So a lot of stuff does happen, but I think we've already covered it.
yeah, he saves his company. He dies all. He technically uses all his chances, but Death is like, since I'll give you one more shot, but it's only to make things better and not to live. And then he does manage to fix things and does the arbitrarily correct thing, falls asleep and wakes up and gets a note for Christmas that says like, "Don't blow it."
Yeah. Which he had to blow out the candle every time he went back. So it was a pun. But
Yeah.
it's also a subtle threat because I assume if he ever blows that candle again, he'll fucking die. So
Yeah.
that was
Well, don't
another...
let the granddaughter near it. Don't let her just like blow it out for fun, you know.
It's just gonna like go in a cupboard with a label on it, like grandpa's forbidden candle or something.
Daddy's soul donut. Do
Yeah,
not
that's
eat.
what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Well, we watched 3 Kelsey Grammer Christmas films, and you may have roped us into doing Thanksgiving specials every year, but you will not rope us into doing this every year.
Won't I? I reckon I could find a couple more next year.
Well, the thing is, he might make a couple more, and we'll be like, well, all right.
I wonder if he's done one this year. He might have been too busy with Frasier to do one, but let me have a look. I bet if he had the opportunity, he will crank one out. 2023 Kelsey Grammer Christmas. Oh, it's already out. It's Jesus Revolution.
Oh, well, that was out like, is it technically Christmas? I thought that was out closer to like the summer.
Oh, maybe this isn't a Christmas movie. Oh, that was...
I think it's a Christian
That
film.
was at the
Oh, what?
start of the movie. I may have... no, I don't think it is. I don't think
Well,
that's...
I think I like saw that at one of my movie theaters once, and I was quickly like, well, I'm not watching that.
No, I don't think we've had anything since 12 Days of Christmas Eve. So he didn't
Yeah.
have time this year to make one.
Perhaps plenty, as is. Perhaps we don't need one.
But last year he had time to make 3. So there you go.
There you are.
I guess it was keeping him busy.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed this, scoot on over to the Striker Star channel where we're going to talk more Kelsey Grammer again. Gonna go all over the Frasier reboot, including the Christmas special Reindeer Games. As we record this, that episode's not out yet, so it's gonna age poorly if it's not actually much about Christmas, but I see that title listed and I'm hoping so.
It'll just be a completely unrelated episode in which Roz shows up with a reindeer and Frasier has to look after it.
Yeah. Her Dalmatian got traded in for a reindeer. This is Ariel again.
Oh yeah. Maybe
All right.
you could definitely
Happy holidays, folks.
Carol.
I'll catch you over there. Or maybe I won't if you watch that one first. If you didn't watch both, I'm mad at you. You're on the naughty list.
Well, I'm sure Kelsey Grammer will probably be in touch with us shortly after listening to this.
Yeah.
We'll be on his naughty list.
I feel like he like isn't. He strikes me like he'd just be really happy to hear this. Like, he doesn't fully acknowledge he's kind of being made fun of. He's like, oh, they like my Christmas special.
The reviews were glowing, David.
And you missed out. All for Shakespeare.
He does that new show with Lilith now, doesn't he?
David Hyde Pierce does?
Yeah.
David. Is it BB Newworth? Is that her name?
Yes, I think so. Not to be confused with BB the Agent.
Right. Oh yeah, it's called Julia.
That's the one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Julia. It's a Julia Child thing, which David Hyde Pierce plays Paul Child.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Yeah, it's
Well-
happening like right now. Go watch it.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
And don't get electrocuted on your way out.
And don't drive off a bridge. Don't have a heart attack. Don't slip on some ice. Don't let a chandelier fall on your head. And if
Don't
you
tell a
ever
child that, don't mention that Santa kills people in front of a child.
if you ever enter into a Faustian pact with Satan stroke death stroke Santa Claus, do not blow out the candle that he gives you.